Welcome. This is Astrology Insight Now, a weekly forecast program with astrology and other ways to help you make the most of your week and to heighten confidence for daily life. It's run by Pamela Cuccinell, that's me, the astrologer, and I invite you to find out more about my work at insightoasis.com. I look forward to your joining us every week. Please share with your friends, and here we go. This is the week of the lunar eclipse. Overall, I would say this is a very strong week for fulfillment, for going to the outcome that you want to achieve. And the thing to keep in mind as we move towards the full moon lunar eclipse that happens on Tuesday the 17th, at least Eastern time, is that we want to bring together the forces that have to do with how we put ourselves out in ways of service, actualization, realization of projects that we're working on, so that we feel a sense of creative and spiritual fulfillment. So let me explain that. I will go more into it if you look for the podcast that will drop in the next 24 hours specific to this lunar eclipse, and it will also have a meditation on it. But to think in terms of how we utilize this week to our best advantage. On Monday, the 16th, the moon enters the sign of Pisces at 5:39 a.m. Eastern Time. And before that point, it's in the sign of Aquarius, and it's been void of course since 1:04 a.m. on this day. So when the moon is void of course, just a quick refresher for those who don't listen or those who want to be reminded, and many of you, especially Eastern Time, may be asleep when the moon is void of course, which is kind of a perfect way to spend it. But in general, when the moon is void of course, it's not making any connections to another heavenly body that indicate an emotional charge or trigger that's going to guarantee fulfillment of whatever that contract, agreement, discussion, launch wants to make happen. So in general, when it's void of course, the best course of action is to work on things already in motion, take quiet, reflective time. This is a bit mitigated depending on the sign that the moon is in, but in the case of Aquarius, absolutely, you can explore things, you can research, you can be working on things, you can certainly be in dream time. But it's not an ideal time to really think that that community organization is going to kick into action and fulfill whatever has been discussed at that point in time. So once the moon enters Pisces in the wee hours of the morning, then it's moving towards that full moon, and which is also an eclipse. And it really is feeling the juice of wanting to connect. When the moon's in Pisces, we have available to us this sense of knowing that we are all connected in the great universal unconsciousness. And of course, that's true all the time. Many of us forget, or we fall under the illusion of separatism, and this is really emphasized in the world in which we live as people shore up their separate camps and really want to declare This is how I think. If you don't think this way, we are not the same. And yet, we all come from the same celestial DNA. Human beings are more alike than we're different. Certainly physiologically, this is true. And most of us, in our desires to seek, connect, create, are coming from the same root sources. How we fulfill may look different, but we truly are more alike than we are not. And when the moon's in Pisces, we can really connect with that. Conversely, the moon in Pisces can also emphasize a sense of victimization. No one understands me. I have to work so hard for attention or for people to realize my worth. This particular lunar cycle is basically saying, just change that tape. If that's a recording in your head, if that's how you feel about things, if that's what seems to be the environment in which you're finding yourself, this is a full moon lunar eclipse that's really asking to see the value in what you're putting in. Look at it this way. We are approaching when the moon in Pisces is lit by the sun in Virgo. And Virgo symbolizes how we tend our inner fire. What are the things that we do in the routine of our day that give us a sense of going somewhere, goals, routines, discipline. Some of us may not have as much of that as others do. And some of us may not need it in the same way as others do. It's valuable to look at where that full moon eclipse is going to fall in your personal horoscope, because what it's going to indicate is where you need to go into the void, into the well, into the meditative state, the creative state, the state of seeking, searching for the numinous, and how that is in opposition with the details that ground you. Anyone who has a regular meditation practice, martial art practice, creative practice is very aware that it doesn't come from nowhere. The very word practice means that we set up some kind of ritual that invites in the peace that's going to liberate, free us into creative meditation, spiritual process. That's why meditation rituals often have same time of day, same setup, however we do the breath. Same things with inviting in people who are writers, painters, artists. There's a system for how they bring in the creative process. Of course, this is different than people who kind of potchkey around, just sort of play. And that's okay too. And that might be something you want to make time for over this next period of days. But overall, on Monday, the thing that can really help bring in this inspirational process, because I do see this as a very inspired lunar eclipse, And what it can tease out is, what is that piece of you that really brings in a light, a gift, a connection that is available to you, and you may not often make time for it. So some of us, especially in the later afternoon, may be feeling a sense of, as I said earlier, victimization, where the wound is, no one's understanding me, here I have made this great proposal, and I'm not getting the acknowledgement within my work environment. Whatever the grievance, the wound is, it's valuable for you to recognize it, see it, but not get stuck in it. How do you move that? How do you start to shed the identity with it? Because yes, maybe not all of us, but most of us go through periods or situations where we're not being acknowledged, where that connection is not being made. And it's really valuable to self-realize, to know, hey, I did that well. I brought this in. I gave something that was necessary to the cause, to the voice, to the process. And it's valuable to self-recognize that. Because always, as you hear me say, we want to start with self-love, self-realization, self-acknowledgement, because that's the way we really understand back if the person or situation that's seeming to give us praise or love or connection is valid. If we don't see that within ourselves or recognize it within ourselves, it's really difficult for us to trust that from another source. So on Tuesday the 17th, the lunar eclipse is exact at 10:34 p.m. So yes, depending on where you are on the planet during that full moon, you may very well see some of this smudging that may occur on the full moon. It's not going to be dramatic, most likely, but it will be something, if you're up that late, you may see. Certain philosophies or ways of thinking prefer not to be in the light of an eclipse, that it's better to meditate or go inward. I don't really know what the right answer is, although it is interesting that in the natural world, creatures, birds, are aware of the darkening that basically should not be happening when the moon is full. And so they react in ways that are, what the heck is going on? And I think part of the message with that, as we reflect on the lunar eclipse, is, what is going on? I mean, you can be out, you can be partying, you can be in discussion with people, you can be winding down, going about your day. But when we're aware that we're in eclipse time and we pay attention to symbolic messages, we can receive inspiration, a moment, an idea. The lunar eclipses are subtle. They can come in dreams and symbols. Depending on where it falls in your horoscope, it may or may not be, oh, wow, here's an opportunity or here's a situation. If it's hitting an exact point on your horoscope, then usually and in this point, it's 25 degrees, 41 minutes of the mutable signs, so specifically Pisces and Virgo, but certainly Sagittarius and Gemini can be influenced. So if you've got an important point around those degrees mutable, then yes, probably there's some kind of information that's coming in that's specific to you, and you may feel it emotionally because it's a lunar eclipse. It may have something to do with women in your life, or self-nurturing, or how you actually care or provide. So these things are important to note during this eclipse time. The thing that I think is so powerful about this eclipse is when it's happening, we have the influence of Neptune, because Neptune right now is in late degree Pisces. So it can be subtle, it can be creative, it can be spiritual, it can have to do with something that feels like, oh, it's in flow. I mean, it's lovely. Some people may want to do a dance movement, a martial art movement, something to welcome in the sense of connection with absolute flow movement as you're going through this. Walking a dog, cuddling a cat, the things that bring in that sense of how you are connected to the world that is part of your actual physical self can awaken stronger, I think, what's happening. And then the general thrust of how this moon travels will eventually be in a picture with the planet Pluto. So it's very much about transformative energy. And many people who are feeling the connection directly will have a sense of, this is how I move this. Even if you don't have a total visual, the sense of being imbued with the energy can really increase. So Monday, Tuesday, productive days. Wednesday, the 18th, the moon goes void of course at 5:02 a.m. and then it enters Aries at 5:24 a.m. Now, once the moon is in the sign of Aries, it's charging full throttle towards whatever the outcome, wish, desire wants to be. Now, this is a very hot energy after Monday, Tuesday that may have felt more reflective, more transformative. The 18th Wednesday can feel like, wow, somebody wants me to do this, someone's coming on really hot, I'm not sure I want to move that fast. And tempers can be short, especially as we get into the afternoon, early evening. So as I often say when I see a configuration like this, choose your battles. If you're the one feeling the anger rising within you, I personally feel that anger is a fuel, it's a message, and it's important for us to recognize, why is this so strong in me? And it can be very much righteous anger. It can be something you feel a direct cause about, or a reason that you have to articulate something, especially if it was fueled or part of the message with what happened in the earlier part of the week. But what's ideal is for you to make a decision how you're going to impart that that force, that feeling that you want to deliver. It may be very concise, this is something that you've been driving home for a while and you just feel the thrust and the energy to deliver it, but always it's more effective if you are able to hold that in a way that's asserting power more than force or something that just pushes in a way that is going to push away or not serve you as best as you would like. The anger can be coming at you. It can be a situation that has really nothing to do with you. You can find yourself on the street or going through something where you're taken aback by how someone reacts or is working something. What's really, again, important is when we direct the energy in a way that is clean, concise, and targeted, so that we're not in a something that's highly combustible that we don't really know where it's going. We want to know where it's going. And by the time we get into the evening, again, I'm talking Eastern time, so later evening, all this can settle down and have more of a sense of, oh, okay, this is where it is. So sometimes it's best to walk away, to put something on hold, say, let's revisit this, let's, quiet down and just think about what we have to resolve instead of acting when everything's really inflammatory. Thursday the 19th also has that moon in Aries. It is more available, perhaps, on how you can move towards or make something happen. There's also a lot of, well, it could be opportunity, or it could be this is happening there, and what about this? So there's a lot of changeable energy. And what happens when things are moving very quickly and changing is that sometimes people can feel unseated or not really part of what's going on. So the ideal is, if you're working on something already in process, to stay with that. Do your best to keep things active, but don't get stuck in something that may still be in motion. It's if we hook on to something before everything has kind of come through and been made available to us, we can find ourselves, this isn't exactly what I wanted to commit to. So it's really better to kind of keep things in motion and keep the dialogue clear so that we understand what is in the process of becoming. Look at it this way. We had the full moon happen and complete as of the evening Tuesday. So now we're in the waning moon cycle. So that doesn't mean we can't start something or commit, but it does mean that there's a lot of things that are kind of being sifted through as people are deciding or seeing, hey, what am I really going to go to the finish line with? What do I want to complete over the next couple of weeks? And what really isn't worth my time right now? Friday the 20th, the moon goes void of course at 4:39 a.m. and it enters Taurus at 5:03 a.m. Now, this is kind of the gravy weekend, especially Friday and Saturday. Because what's going on is that Moon in Taurus is really, really in a nice groove with other things that are happening energetically. And basically, when the Moon is in Taurus, people want to feel safe. They want to feel good about where they are. They want to concentrate on things that are comforting. They're looking at ways to connect more than like, let me power through. And with that going on, it's got this energy that's more about stay with this, let's see how this fits. There is still that changeable energy about, and that will continue until the early afternoon. And so we may experience some sort of upset where, oh, I thought she was coming to lunch. No? Okay. So that kind of, this isn't who I thought I was meeting with or what I thought was going to be coming to pass. But when we look at this as being potentially, well, that could be a nice surprise or something that is bringing in an unexpected or a new way of thinking about something that I hadn't really considered. And that's not necessarily bad. Another example with Moon and Taurus is you order something, oh, we're out of that. And you try something you hadn't really expected to order, and it turns out to be, wow, this is very flavorful, and this is a nice choice. So that's the kind of energy that's about on this day. There's also, I really encourage, if you can find some meditation quiet time, especially early evening into just maybe post-dinner or prior to, depending on when you eat your meal, it's helpful to just let things be what they need to be before you settle into, okay, this is where I'm really committing and staying into. And the evening, depending on, if you're working, some people will be, or if you're having certain conversations or simply doing things that are restorative, this is really lovely and sweet, especially once we get 8:30 in the evening and beyond. So again, looking Eastern time. Very restorative evening for sleeping, for dreaming, for leaving yourself available to what can inspire you the next day. And absolutely terrific day on Saturday the 21st, which my calendar tells me is the UN International Day of Peace. So very lovely for making those kind of connections, commitments, just rolling out into a sense of really sinking into the delights of the earth and being present and being a child of the universe. Terrific day for that. Just lovely. Enjoy. And inspiration can come. Sunday the 22nd, lovely, lovely in the early morning hours. Many people, especially Eastern time, may just be in the dream state, but really restorative, really delicious energy through 6:14 a.m. Moon goes void, of course. Then it enters Gemini at 6:24 a.m. Very different energy. A lot of people will feel jazzed. They want to run around. They want to make things happen. Very much here, 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 everywhere. Sun enters Libra at 8:44 a.m. Lots of air energy. lots of dynamic energy about do this, do that, here we go. And it can be a lot at once. So if you can stay in that place of still enjoying nature, what's around you, this also is, of course, the autumn equinox when the sun enters Libra. And I think the message of this particular equinox is to quiet the noise and be more interested in listening for sounds of love than capitulating into strife. The lunar eclipse meditation will drop in the next 24 hours. I wish you a beautiful equinox and, of course, the eclipse. And I look forward to spending a little time with you next week. You have been listening to Astrology Insight Now. Please share with your friends. And if you'd like to make a donation, you can do so at astrologyinsightnow.com. Have a stellar week, and we hope to see you next time.